I was actually principal at Moanlo Middle for 18 years, and when I became principal in 1990, I recognized immediately that my greatest challenge was to be a change agent. And there was nobody in the Department of Education that was training principals to be change agents. I went to Kaiser Hospital that was in my community, and I attended a total quality management training with their doctors. I went to the business community to see what are the models for organizational change and how am I going to facilitate this in a school. I have to tell you that when I started teaching 40 years ago, research in education was non-existent. There was very little knowledge about how people learn, what the brain's like, how we can differentiate instruction, what instructional strategies work. Now there is so much research, but it's a matter of how do we filter it and get it to the teacher in the classroom and then make a safe environment where they feel that they can try something different and become reflective practitioners. And so that became my mission, is to create a learning community. First thing I did, I put up my sign on the door, I'm the head learner. So I'm not the principal, the manager. I'm going to be right there learning with you, and this is our challenge. We have to learn, and we have to find out what's best for kids. And every single decision that we made, we actually developed. Nobody gave it to me. How do you make decisions in a learning organization? This school is our learning organization. This is the extent that I can control. And so how are we going to make decisions here? We're going to make them based on the needs of kids. And it was always my sadness that as a system, we didn't make decisions like that. In our state, we don't make decisions like that. What do our kids need? And who has that compelling vision for public education in Hawaii? It's not there. It really, truly isn't there. We have a vision for a #1 football team to a greater degree than we have a vision for a public school system where excellence is the expectation and people are prepared and equipped to get us to that point. So I actually tried my hand at the state office when the superintendent came to me in '99 when we were going through the Felix lawsuit. And the request was, will you please come to the state office and help us guide this change process, because we need somebody with a school perspective. I wanted to cry. How can you work in the DOE and not have a school perspective? It's like, these are our customers, these kids and their parents. And everything we should be doing is based on the needs of the customers. How do we create the programs that support the success of our customers? And I literally tried for a year and a half to be on loan to the state. And I did a lot of training. I built a lot of relationships on the neighbor islands. I loved it. But ultimately, I felt like I was dragging a dinosaur, because the system is so disjointed and so broken that everybody wasn't heading the same war, same direction in this battle that we really needed to undertake to get to a level of excellence. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to go back to Moanlo and I'm going to make it happen so that it becomes like a demonstration school, so that other people can learn from it. And really and truly, 95% of the teachers want to do right for kids. And so my job is to empower them, give them opportunities to learn, create that culture where it's safe. Now, when I talk about culture in a learning environment or in a workplace, and many of you are business people, there's a purposeful effort to create a culture. And I'm not talking about the fact that I'm Holly and you're Japanese American and we're going to eat Saimin for lunch. I'm talking about culture, like the way we live in this place. This is what we believe. This is the language that we share. This is what we talk about. This is what we care about. This is what we celebrate. This is the way we live in this place. And so every single school and the DOE has to have a culture. And when people are invisible in that culture, they don't feel significant. They don't feel like they have an important role. When I was at the state office, I can't tell you how many meetings I went to where I went in, I sat down, no one was introduced. sometimes we weren't even told why we were there. I was told to go, and the meeting's over, and I thought, like, why was I here? You know, I was invisible, you know? And I'm not so egotistical that I don't want to be invisible sometimes, but it's like everybody should have a clear idea why we're here, who are we, and those relationships are so important. So that has to come at the level of the school and ultimately in the level of the classroom. And it's not going to just happen. It's a purposeful effort. We create a culture where we welcome parents and we include them. And so I just wanted to share that because I wanted you to understand where I'm coming from in terms of system change at a school level and owning the issues and responsibilities. Let me give you an example. 4 years ago, we had 50% of our 8th graders proficient in reading. We're sending kids to high school and only 50% are proficient at grade level. This isn't acceptable. And so what do? I'm a secondary school, I have secondary teachers, nobody taught them how to teach reading. And so we had to come to a place as a staff where we're saying, this isn't acceptable, we're gonna do whatever we have to do, and so we need someone, and it became our English teachers and some of the others, you guys need to figure out how to do this so you can teach the staff, so how you can teach reading in science class, and April can teach it in social studies, and we're going to teach it through the content area. And we had to learn everything that we could learn. When we started doing that and teaching kids to think, and I don't mean say, think, would you please think? We're teaching them how to think. There's 8 different ways to think. You think categorically, you think compare and contrast, you sequence, you know, all this. And I'm not going to get into the details of it, but those 2 things, because when you're teaching kids reading and they're already adolescents, you're really teaching them to think. What are the context clues? What does the picture tell you? What are the questions that you think are going to come up? And so you're teaching them to think. And so those 2 strategies, getting every teacher in the school to teach reading through their content area and having everybody in the school trained in using thinking as a strategy, that made a huge difference. The following year, 2007, 2 years later, we had 86% of our kids proficient readers. We're not there yet, and I know they're going to continue the journey, but I think that when you hear Randy talk, it sounds like an impossible scenario. What do we do to fix it? And part of it is valuing the people that are doing the work, the teachers. Part of it is building that sense of efficacy. I can't stand it when teachers say, or principals, oh, we're doing the best we can. It's not good enough. We gotta learn more, we gotta do more.
I think the union, and I'll say the union officials, who I think have their own agenda that's not in sync with what the members would like. But I think union officials are part of what in the article I referred to as an unholy alliance in one place and the iron triangle in another place, but they certainly are at the center of this power squeeze of sorts, you know, the death grasp on control of the system. But I think the DOE, and the BOE is part of the DOE. The Board of Education is like the Board of Directors of a corporation, so we don't talk about the Board of Directors of General Motors being different than General Motors. It's just the head of, if you will, General Motors. Well, the BOE, Board of Education, Department of Education, are part of this iron triangle, and I think the legislature. The legislature obviously is overwhelmingly controlled by one party, and that's part of what I call that iron triangle.
They don't know what they cut, and 2, with the money that is in the Board of Education right now, are they making priority decisions? Why did you go first, or almost first, to furlough days?